Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to watch Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K Episode 25, The Herald. This is going to be the second time we're jumping into it, and frankly, I might have been a little overexcited for the Herald reveal, which, it's fan. He usually names whatever the episode is with something going on at the end of the episode. It's like, you know what, that's cool. But also, I got a bit into it before that actually came out. Admittedly, what came up was awesome. I don't really care where he goes. I'm going to love any of it because I just want to see what happens. That's the problem with having a lot of really interesting threads. They're all interesting, and I can't tell which one I want to get to more. Although maybe the Herald, just because I'm very freaking curious what the Herald is, who it is. People have been conscientious on the internet not to tell me in advance. Internet people. Do I need to explain that further? If I do, hi, welcome to the internet for the very first time. That's not normal. More importantly, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up, and let's get started. 884? What? I do not remember what that's a reference to.
Honestly, this is no way to treat a Magos. The not Magos exclaimed to no one in particular, for there was no one in particular to exclaim it to.
Wait, they're not a Magos?
Yes, there were the menial servitors, all 9 of them, all of whom could physically do nothing more about his complaint than drone mindlessly about the extremely basic duties that they could perform. And yes, there were also the humming, churning cogitators all around him, but while they made plenty of noise, they did not do any listening, and they
Huh. I know I've been saying this more and more as fan creates more unique characters, but I don't think I've seen this kind of characterization from, well, anyone from the Martian anything. I know technically it's Mechanicus and former Mechanicum, but anything at all like this. This is someone whining about not being treated like a Magus when they're not a Magus. There's not many whiny characters in 40K who aren't Conrad Kurz, because technically he was very whiny. In the entire, oh no, the future set in stone. I'm also going to make sure it exactly goes down like I saw and do absolutely nothing to change it. And then breaking when he found out he actually could have. Yeah, that part. But, with that exception, I don't think I've ever seen anyone characterized like this. So it's actually very unique just to start with.
rarely responded to his concerns, and that was a problem. After all, what was the point of having stolen the title of Magos if one could only exercise its authority over the mindless tools of their own craft?
A title?
Even an engine seer had such privileges. And it was not as though he sought authority over others for personal pride's sake, or anything equally as base. No, never! The whole universe was a grand mechanism, and for every part of it that was left out of place, the whole machine suffered further chaos. And he was certainly out of place here. Even now, as he went over the schematics for his latest pattern variant on the Taurox Trooper Carrier, he was consistently reminded of how subpar his surroundings were. He understood well enough that the jailer had little duty to the comforts of the captive, but when the jailer was keeping a mind like his prisoner, and doing so specifically for the work that mind could do, it struck the imposter priest as unforgivingly illogical to not increase.
Oh, I thought this guy was just whining in some back room. Oh, I completely misread this. This is much weirder than I thought. He stole the title, which, why would that matter? It's just, how do you steal a title? And then he's jailed, so they didn't kill him, they didn't take him apart, they didn't disassemble him, they didn't turn him into a cyborg. Well, sorry, he probably did that. I meant a, well, I actually forgot the term for the empty husks that everyone he literally just talked about them. Now, I literally just blanked on the word. Wow. Brain fart. But they didn't just mind wipe him. Should I know this character?
Increase the value of his captivity by making the facilities he worked within even moderately acceptable. Such thoughts drew his mind back to Call, and from him to his current quote-unquote master.
Call?
The very man who kept him locked up here, siphoning only spoonfuls of his insight as if secretly attempting an assassination through infliction of sheer.
I'm what
The very man who kept him locked up. His current thoughts drew his mind back to Call, and from him to his current quote-unquote master.
Okay. For a second, I thought they implied that he was currently imprisoned by Call. Having Belisarius Call would be absolutely insane. He would have way too much fun. Because there'd be no one saying things he might not want to answer, like, hey, why is this planet in the wrong location? Why are these two people spliced together? Why are you making a horror show for fun? Would he do that? There's probably someone out there who had a knee-jerk. No, he would never do that. But then just think to yourself, would he do that? And the answer is, I don't know, and I can't say no decisively. But it's not him. It's someone who reminds him of Call, but that also means he's had enough dealings with Call to realize how Call he is. Although at this point, it might be literally anyone who's ever had to deal with him, because he has a reputation and has been around since the Crusade. So that reputation has probably been reinforced multiple times.
The very man who kept him locked up here, siphoning only spoonfuls of his insight,
So this
as
is
if
someone who worked
secretly
for Call or
attempting an
knew
assassination through infliction of sheer boredom.
That would be a horrible way.
Damn that Omni Kraden! Were my true master here, he would...
A sound cut through the thunking of the cogitators and the ranting of the enslaved mind, drawing his attention to the communications
Enslaved
terminal,
mind?
which
Oh,
sat
the
nearby,
Archer.
pulsing with the odd noise.
What?
Eagerly, but carefully, the captured Magos, who was no true Magos at all, extricated himself from his workstation, drawing up his red robe once all of his mechadendrites had retracted themselves. He then made his way to the bleeding terminal, stabbing the squat device with a prehensile mechadendrite and silencing it before queuing up the caller on the screen.
Bleeding terminal? Oh, because it's yeah, they do a lot of wet work. Also, he's captive. I initially assumed he's in the jail cell where Anakin was being held, but yeah, that's probably the only thing I think, because the Star Wars side probably wouldn't do that, and they would also not know about everything else. Or let him have wet work technology, because I don't think they are okay with that yet.
Current 82 Velen greeted him, his blue countenance
82
roughed
Velen?
up, though, in spite of this, the blind priest curled his lips into a subtle, yet present smile.
Oh?
The time has come. The self-proclaimed Archmagos has missed his pickup window, and it will
What?
be hours before the next one. If we are to relocate you and your knowledge, it must be done now.
The
What
electro
does he
priest
know that
said
they're
firmly.
keeping?
The captive imposter rocked back on his heels at the news.
Now? But I'm not sure I'm ready to egress. I just got this terminal secured,
How many-
and I'm only 98.777 repeating % sure that I fully infiltrated my guard servitors.
Servitors, that's the word. Also, this is not the people holding him captive. I'm pretty sure 82 Velen was the one who dealt with Ahsoka, but I could also be very mistaken there. Because my memory is mush, and that, for all I know, it could or could not be him. I don't know. But that is interesting, though, because this is an internal division within the Mechanicus segment within the overall fleet, which is already fractured. Initially, I thought the Mechanicus would be its own cohesive unit, but admittedly, I know enough about 40K to realize that would never be the case, because they are incredibly fractured by Forge World, by class, by specific title, by age, by memory, by specific interpretations of belief. Yeah, honestly, thinking they were ever one cohesive unit within the 40K side was probably stupid in hindsight. On the other hand, good on Fen for actually carrying through on that. Nice.
I've
So
no
they're
relevant
internal
maps or
rebellion.
navigational data of this ship beyond what's immediately around my cell. I've no idea how to reach you, or what I would do if I encountered resistance.
Run.
Felon, I'm not even packed yet.
The plea had no effect on
No, he is actually
C-82.
whiny. Apparently I was right about that.
Find a way. Use your trump card if you have to.
Trump card.
He said,
Felon,
knowledge
we're
does he
being boarded by
have?
enemy troops. If I use my back door, it will automatically cut down the data security and firewall cohesion across the entire ship.
Yeah, I hear if people go through the back door, you lose cohesion pretty fast. I am 5 years old and I'm aware of it.
again,
My wife's right here,
C-82
she'd
only
judge me for this.
shrugged, seeming not to care at all.
They are boarding the ship we are attached to, actually. But even if they were not, what care have we for the security of Omni Creighton and his inquisitorial pet?
And that does actually explain it. I don't think it's the same one we met before. But they're on the ship attached to the one crashing into the planet. So it happened before the crash happened. So definitely not the one Ahsoka was with, because he left at the crash time almost entirely. I just wish I knew how things were lining up.
Let their heresies suffer the sting of their own self-wrought sin. Do not overthink this, 84. If you do, you will not escape. Meet me in the Greater Honoring Hall as soon as you can. Current 82 Velen, out.
And with those words, the transmission went white and ended, leaving the false Magos to jitter and fuss about before finding his resolve.
All right. Calm down. Just think. What would Call do? What would the true Archmagos do?
He said aloud to himself.
Yeah, anyone who asks what would Call do, the answer is probably something stupid and brilliant in equal measure.
Well, I suppose he would have released the backdoor virus weeks ago and tried to escape on his own. Perhaps that should have been my first instinct as well. I suppose I'll do so now. Oh, what is the term he used? Better late than never.
Oh, God,
but what if I get lost? No.
Don't you have
Stop
maps?
it! Stop it! Call would not even pause at the possibility of being lost. You just
break
blunder
things?
in and so
Claim he was
will
right?
I, because today I escape. I decided that. Me.
I absolutely love this. I love this character. I don't even understand him in the slides, but I already love him because he's completely deluded. You can just see it right now. Just between the mix of immediately being told to escape, fighting back the idea of escaping, convincing himself that he wants to escape, that he's the one deciding to escape. And just all of this between making himself a tech priest and stealing the title, so it implies someone else lost it, or that he stole it from just allowance of being called it. Stealing is a very unique word in that it does imply taking from someone else. Unless he's taking from the Omni side, title he didn't earn, which would be more of a religious bent, but he's also worshiping Call. And let's be honest, I'm pretty sure I didn't misspeak on that one. So, yeah, that's probably accurate now that I think about it.
Not quite man said, puffing out his chest as much as he was able to before turning to his cogitators and extending out his many
physical
mechadendrites.
Well, I suppose it's time to get to work.
He said, swallowing hard, or rather, making the physical gesture and activating his trump card. Beside him in the room, the previously barred entryway slid open with a mechanical sigh.
Well, at least that worked.
He gathered what things he could, and even took a deep breath as he stepped through the portcullis.
Oh, Messiah, guide my path. I hope it won't undermine my display of resolve too much if I occasionally consult a local consul for directions.
I'm sorry. He knows that there's ways to get directions, and he's actually just not doing it because of his own pride. Oh, God. I just love that. Mace Windu, Jaro Talpa, and Saran. Oh, Saffron. Oh, so that's how you spell his name. Also, Fan is no longer doing the location for the transitions. He's doing the names of the people involved. Ooh, neat. And this would be the duel again. Because in the previous short, they showed Mace Windu taking over after Obi-Wan admittedly did a freaking awesome job and then still lost because he was always defensive. I'm actually excited for this one. I didn't think we'd get it this time around.
Damn you, innumerable heretics!
Whoa.
The Psychic Space Marine.
Damn! Okay, I want to hear that again. Wait for it. Here it comes.
Damn you, innumerable heretics!
Whoa. Fan always had a really deep growl when it came to Saffron speaking. Also, yes, that's as deep as my voice gets, I'm aware. But this time around, that was way more emphasized than any of his previous readings. Holy shit. I don't know if his mic just has better range now. He adjusted something. I don't know how he did that. Mostly because when it comes to this kind of stuff, no, I hate fiddling with that. Me and technology don't work. partially because I'm bad at it, and partially because I'm also lazy. But more importantly, I really do like that sound effect because it makes it seem much more ominous than he previously did, and frankly, I love it.
The psychic space marine bellowed, hand extending out and becoming the origin point of an explosive wave of shrieking electricity. It ripped out across the air between the massive warrior and the two he was trying to smite, his wrath taking the form of a cavorting storm of demonic lightning. The two Jedi did not veer to avoid the coming psychic death. One of them, the alien Lasat known as Master Tapal, maintained his posture perfectly as he pulled on the librarian, while the other, the human Jedi known as Jedi Master Windu, dove in from the center and straight into the attack.
Blocking lightning.
The powerful Jedi Master.
Really, fan? The very first thing you do to introduce Windu in a dramatic setting is to reenact the end of Revenge of the Sith, because it's just having him blocking lightning. That had to be intentional. There's no way the first major action he takes, the most dramatic action other than just being consulted or having a bit roll, was to jump into lightning, which is the most iconic scene he has in the entire prequel. If that wasn't intentional, then it's actually an admittedly incredibly happy accident. I'm glad you left it in.
Threw himself towards the Space Marine, he moved his mind, spirit, and blade into the now horribly familiar rotations that composed Vapad. His body seemed to collide with the ravaging waves and arcs of the attack,
and this
falling
is librarian
into tendrils of the dark side so
themselves.
thick and so dark they could corrupt the very air. But as these serpents of energy closed in on their presumed prey, the Jedi revealed himself to be the Predator, absorbing the energies and converting them into his own strength.
Oh?
Safran's blood iced at the sight, and he realized then that his former assessment about the warp capabilities of the Jedi had been more correct than he dared have hoped.
Oh?
But the moment of epiphany
but just not
was
all of
fleeting,
them, yeah.
For it was not 2 seconds later that the warrior known as Mace Windu was upon him. Safran drew in his power once more, turning to the enhancements of his own body and natural abilities now that he knew the Jedi could potentially devour offensive warp arts. Even with this, however, he found himself struggling to keep his force stave between his body and the malevolent purple blade that was attempting to impale him.
Ooh, now that is an interesting choice of words. And I think that's one of those more interesting points. I'm not sure if that was an intentional aspect of fan saying from Safran's perspective that Windu is being corrupted because of all the description of darkness and the blade being malevolent. But one, I hate how he's jumping between Safran and Windu's perspectives because we're starting with what seemed more like the Jedi perspective and then moving into Safran's. I know, I bitch about it every time he does it. It's how he likes to write. He does it well, but I just personally don't like it because most people who are tempted to write this way fuck it up. I've talked about that extensively. I'm not going to bother this time around other than what I already did because I just feel the need to do that because I enjoy ranting about literary things like that. But more importantly, the original thought was Fan in one of the after talks mentioned he basically views Windu as already having fallen. He's very much a dark Jedi already without really going full evil. He's more just evil adjacent, and all of the little descriptions here sound like he's building up Windu as someone who's dark, malevolent, like his blade. And then the lightning was demonic and he ate it. Or he consumed it and made it his own. All of those descriptions very much fit with that kind of understanding. And it almost sounds like he's building up Windu as the villain in this encounter. As much as before, Safran felt like he was the antagonist to Obi-Wan. Now Safran feels like the antagonist to Windu. Odd, but okay.
This man was an entirely different creature, even from the knight he'd been facing before, the one known as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Where Kenobi had been a shell of unbreakable defense, this man before him now was truly the essence of offensive action. Not only fast, but strong, and not only strong, but unerringly accurate. This Safran learned the hard way as he was dragged forward, forced to defend himself while his footwork could not but keep him upright. While the librarian had succeeded in warning off the purple blade with wide warding sweeps of his stave, He also found himself falling victim to the very same flaw that had seen the old Jedi Master from earlier nearly crushed to death by Safran's mailed fist. Windu drew his attention with one hand while punching and striking with the other. Initially, Safran thought to ignore the Jedi's bare-handed strikes, only to become aware of how enormous a mistake that was once the first 4 blows had connected. The man punched and hit like an autocannon burst at close range.
Damn.
But that was not all. It wasn't even the worst of it. Safran's power armor was, as its name suggested, powerful. But it was also old, ancient. A 7,000-year relic that had been only mostly maintained by his chapter.
7,000 years. This is going to be weird to say, but I know a good bit about the power armor for most Marines, but power armor for Space Marine librarians, I would assume is somewhat specialized because librarian. But I don't know anything about it. Is it the same marks, or do they have their own variants altogether? Is 7,000 years old or new for Space Marine librarian armor? I mean, that would have to put it at least at 34K when it was built, because this is roughly either the 40th or the 41st or the 42nd millennium, because time is weird. And I think they lost 1,000 years in there somewhere, which is an actual plot point that came up in one of the novels after the Indominus Crusade, or after the Indominus Crusade was then retcon, which might have been the retcon itself, and I don't even know. And 40K problems. You can't tell if it's a retcon or the warp fuckery, and frankly, GW probably likes it that way. So I don't actually know if that is new or old armor. I'm assuming he says ancient, but most armor is pretty damn old, though.
Even in such resplendent
prior to the
warfare,
Indominus Crusade,
flaws were bound to occur. Chinks were certain to be formed. And this man,
did he just
Mace
freaking break
Windu,
Ceramite?
seemed to know the location of every single one.
Yeah.
He did not just punch his warp-wreathed fist into the opening that appeared, but instead, he specifically funneled his damaging blows into the most vital openings, ripping at wounds inflicted on the warplate centuries past, bursting flawed seams and ceramite reinforcements.
He is actually punching ceramite
Safran's weak points
and
wherever
winning.
they presented themselves. Defending himself from these true strikes all too late, the librarian realized with a sickening sensation that the battle had just turned out of his favor. If he had known, if he had somehow been able to just anticipate such a combination, a final swing of his stave forced the Jedi Master off of his offensive, leaving the Space Marines skittering across the steel ground.
But he's also
the second
pretty
warrior.
into it by now.
Already, Safran could tell that he had lost power in his left shoulder and arm. The servos there now locked and struggling against his movements.
He'd have to physically overwhelm the armor.
All thanks to the Jedi Master's precise attacks. This forced him to wield his stave one-handed as he approached the second Jedi Master at rapid pace. Feet still screeching and scraping, the subtleties of stance mostly denied to him yet again.
All I gotta say right now is, as cool as this fight scene is, and it is really cool to finally see a Jedi hold up to someone that is on this 40K side. Not just hold up, but overwhelm them. I think this is one of those weird situations where Fan is using Mace Windu to build up something else. Because we've seen the power level, the disparity. We've seen Aleia, when she was talking to him, using Vapid as well. And we saw her level of mastery versus his level of mastery. And now we just need a comparison between them and there to see just how far apart we are from the Inquisitors there, because we don't really know the level of how they compare yet. But more importantly, we know from the very... the reason Windu's first action was to jump into lightning, reminiscent of his fight with Palpatine, is that we're now seeing exactly how they stand there. Windu couldn't overcome Palpatine and was bashed out a window by Anakin. Also, according to Samuel L. Jackson, he completely lived, but whatever. 40K? Maybe that'll happen this version. I don't think so, but whatever. Here, where we're at, though, that is the initial thing. So we're building up Windu. We're building up Sidious by comparison, because if this is what he can do and be stalled out by Sidious, admittedly Sidious playing the fool, and still like, oh no, help me, Anakin! And taking a lot of the reverberation damage himself because he's Sidious. How much he was okay with, I don't know. I don't think he cared. But that aside, as much as we're building up him now, we're building up Sidious. We're building up Palpatine. We're seeing this is the kind of level he can compare to and then beat because bullshit levels of power and that entire self-possessing thing that fan is okay with that Disney put in. And honestly, I missed when it was in the movie because it was kind of a weird plot point. Huh.
The alien released his telekinetic grip,
Alien?
relying on momentum to carry Safran the rest of the way as he whipped his saber staff up into a
Oh, no, they're not
flourish.
talking about Windu. Forgot there's another guy.
Safran's teeth bled in his gums as he clenched them, locking the staves together before taking a clothesline stroke from the alien's other arm.
Oh.
The librarian was pitched onto his back by the blow, releasing his stave and barely rolling out of the way before the Lasat Jedi Master buried one of his double blades into the floor where Safran had just been.
Damn.
He came up to his feet and backed away warily, watching as the alien yanked his weapon contemptuously from the floor, eyes fixed on the librarian. Mace Windu calmly walked back to his fellow master's side, and the two of them crouched slightly, preparing for their second assault. Safran spat out a tooth and growled deep within his throat. Though they all looked fairly similar, clearly the span and range of these Jedi and their abilities was the essence of inconstant.
Yep.
In one instance, he found himself tearing through scores of them. And in the next, he was stopped by one and then nearly defeated by two.
Yep, and God help us if they had been working together, this fight would have been over already. Because if you have the best attack and the best defense, specifically someone who's good at defending around other people, yeah. Granted, that would be a terrible story. It's way too easy.
He was worn down from his previous feats, but he could not help but muse to himself, briefly, how many other enemies of the Jedi had found themselves in a similar trap. How many other rivals of their order had tested them and come to underestimate them due to this very factor.
It's literally the exact opposite of the rule of two for the Sith. The Sith are like, the Sith are always going to be strong. If you're a Sith, you're amazing because there's literally only two of you. And then they just won't acknowledge anyone who's just an apprentice versus an apprentice. Which is stupid, but that's literally how it works, where the apprentice takes an apprentice and they call themselves a Sith, but no, they're not. But those who are full Sith are really freaking strong. As opposed to the Jedi, where everybody gets to be one. Within reason, of course. I know it's not actually like that. But then there's only a few who are that strong. So technically there's probably more who are incredibly powerful like the Sith. But there's so many that they kind of get outwhelmed as a comparison.
Jedi were an order of sheep, shepherded by true masters, or so it seemed. But even now, Safran knew it would not be enough.
Oh?
It could not be. First, he had humored them. Then he had taken the worthy seriously. Now they pressed him into desperation, into danger, into recklessness.
And recklessness, yeah, I cannot speak today. Normally would be drawing further on the warp. Except the warp in 40K is the Force, which is not literally trying to nom on your soul, mostly. So it's not actually as reckless because he's been fighting normally. He hasn't been going all out. He hasn't been burning up or drawing everything through him. We've already seen what a normal human level psyker can do when they go all out. What the hell can a librarian do when pushed that far?
And while Safran knew that he would risk failing to survive his own recklessness, he was certain that they would fail to survive it as well. He spoke no words to the masters, for this was now a true battle, and words had little place here. He reached with his working arm to his opposite shoulder and jammed his fingers under the unresponsive and damaged plate. With a tug and a sigh of mechanical relief, the servos unlocked, becoming dead weight against his muscles.
Oh, they literally just unlocked.
Withdrawing his hand, he extended his still-powered right arm out to the side, and his stave scraped from the floor behind the Jedi, spinning out towards them like the blades of a rotocopter. Mace Windu and Jarl T'Pol both evaded the surprise attack with sidelong lunges and spins, which carried them just out of the weapon's reach as it oscillated through where they had been standing previously. The haft.
I just want to say right now, I wish everything Fan just described was on the tabletop where you could do ranged melee attacks. That would be so freaking cool, especially for a psyker. It's like, I got a sword. I have the warp. I'm going to throw my sword and then pull it back. If that was a thing, that would be so cool, and it makes sense. It's stupid, but it's the kind of really cool stupid I'm a fan of. I wish that was canon.
The Force stave slapped heavily into the Space Marine's palm, and he took it, testing the mobility of his unpowered limb as he took the weapon in both hands and worked through a small set of quick flourishes. It would have to do. Meanwhile, the Jedi had regrouped, now extending their hands once more, grasping at him with the Force. But this time, Safran did not wait to feel the pull. This time, Safran came running straight for them, bloody teeth bared, his face a mask of war.
As much as I really want to keep going, because the Herald was in the next title card for the next segment, and I really want to see that, because I thought it would be much later, but we're getting it now. In the same way I thought we'd be getting the fight later, but we're getting it now. Small bit, but a really interesting bit. I'm putting it off till next time, because I actually have a D&D game I need to go to, and it's probably going to be one of the last ones, and I don't want to miss it, because I'm about to do the old D&D method of, hey, schedule changed, and I can't go anymore. I'm going to be a dick and do that, because adulting sucks. More importantly, though, this last fight, holy shit. The thought process Safran's going through right now, not just to be pushed to fight, not just humoring Obi-Wan, but, treating him as a worthy foe, which admittedly is what it felt like. And it was really cool to see that, because it also had banter and personality from Safran. But to see that Mace Windu is pushing him to actually fight, to go all out, to draw more on the warp, to do more with his power, that means we're going to get to the moment eventually where he's going to realize the warp isn't trying to eat him. And at that point, I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but I'm looking forward to it, because that is a massive roadblock that normally has to be there, because high levels of control, high levels of constraint, not just channeling everything, because everything would numb you. But without that, with the control and the, capacity that a Space Marine librarian can normally take over the warp, without any of the downsides normally imposed by said warp, I'm almost looking forward to that more than I am the Herald reveal, with the exception that I'm really looking forward to the Herald reveal. You have no idea how tempting it is to just say I'll be a little late to the game, but since it might be the last one I can go to, I don't want to do that. Damn it, adulting. More importantly, everyone, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. I'll see you guys in the next one when we get to see the Herald. I know I'm geeking out, and I'm fine with that. Adios.